Chapter 1205. Points system. Students who completed their assignments, participated in assessments, and got the approval of the elders would receive points. There would be various competitions in the academy from time to time. Those who won in the competitions would get points. Of course, those who lost would also get their points deducted. As for the amount of points earned or deducted, it depended on the importance of the competitions. Of course, in addition to assessments and assignments, Miracle Healer Academy also offered many simple jobs. For example, taking care of the spiritual herb garden, raising spiritual beasts, and running errands for elders. They could all gain points. Of course, this kind of work gave very few points, basically only 1 to 2 points at a time. The last way to get points was to complete the missions issued by the academy. This was a bit similar to the mercenaries in Hushy's previous life. Those missions generally had certain dangers, which was also a training for students. If those missions could be completed, the amount of points obtained was not comparable to finishing assignments or works. Hushy sighed and said, "I have checked my points. Because I passed the freshman assessment and performed well in the second assessment, I got 12 points. But these points aren't even enough to buy the slightly better tasting spiritual food in the cafeteria, let alone enter those enchantments." Shaoli said, "Miss, if I secretly charm the person who manages the enchantments, maybe." "Absolutely not." Hushy rejected decisively. "I have met more than a dozen elders of nascent soul stage in this academy alone, and almost all of the butlers and students are at the gold core stage, so we definitely can't fight them forcibly. You must not act rashly. Do you hear me?" Shaoli's face turned pale after hearing Hushy's serious words, and she lowered her head sadly. Hushy reached out, touched her little head, and said softly, "Don't worry, in a few days, when I'm familiar with the Huang medical branch, I'll ask about those point missions." And she lowered her voice, and her divine sense landed on the corner of the map. She smirked. "There is another place in Miracle Healer Academy that other students may not be able to enter even if they earn a lifetime of points, but I can go in and find out right away." Shaoli raised her head in surprise. "Is that?" A phantasm of the map quickly appeared above the inscribed jade slip. Hushy pointed to one of the places where Beijing Pavilion was written, and she smiled. "The highest level forbidden area in Miracle Healer Academy. The amount of points required is unknown. It is even higher level than the Spirit Extinct Valley and Dean's Room. Hee, I don't know where that is, but maybe we can find clues about Wu Qi in it." Shaoli nodded, looking at Hushy with trust and admiration in her eyes. As long as her miss said so, she was willing to trust it unconditionally, and she had never lied to her. As they were talking, the space suddenly fluctuated, which meant someone was approaching. Hushy exited the void immediately and opened her eyes. However, Hushy was already mentally prepared, but when she opened her eyes, she was still startled. Xianmu was sitting cross-legged on the opposite bed. There was a faint smell of blood in the air, which added a bit of killing intent to the already dim dormitory. After sensing Hushy woke up, Xianmu opened his eyes. The pair of dark and deep eyes met Hushy's eyes. The coldness and killing intent in those eyes made Hushy frown slightly, but Hushy didn't feel afraid. She just smiled casually. Chapter 1206. Return gift. She threw a porcelain bottle, and it landed beside Xianmu with a perfect parabola. Treat it as a return gift of the silkworm quilt. After speaking, Hushy didn't even look at Xianmu, as if she didn't even realize the killing intent radiating from him. She turned around and lay back on the bed. She didn't dare to go into the void for the time being, so she just went to sleep normally. Xianmu reached out and took the porcelain bottle. As soon as he opened the bottle, there was a hint of surprise in his eyes. His complex gaze looked at the bed on the upper left. The young man's figure was covered by the silkworm, emitting a faint soft light. Only the black silky brocade-like long hair was scattered on the bed. If the young man just asked a question or showed the intention to investigate, he would probably kill him. However, to Xianmu's surprise, the young man seemed to have no interest in his injury or what he was doing. The medicinal pills thrown over were also effective for his current condition. "He can judge my injury by just smelling my blood?" Xianmu frowned, suppressed the complicated thoughts in his mind, and swallowed a medicinal pill. The warm medicinal power spread from the dantian to the whole body. It had a reassuring comfort and tolerance. The night passed in quiet cultivation and deep sleep. It was Hushi's third day taking classes at Huang Medical Branch, but the classroom situation here still made her sigh. There were not many students in Huang Medical Branch, at least not many in the class. No one was serious. They were either sleeping or practicing on their own, which was completely different from every student in the Heaven Medical Branch's class who listened carefully to the class. Most of the elders teaching at Huang Medical Branch were at the nascent soul stage, but their attitude was completely incomparable to the elders teaching at Heaven Medical Branch. These elders were usually impatient in class, and they were too lazy to go deep into some basic theories. Hushi occasionally asked questions about things she didn't understand, but they didn't seem to care. Hushi also wanted to get angry, but when she saw those students fooling around in the class, she didn't know who to sympathize with. In desperation, Hushi had to save enough points first and go to the library to check the information. In fact, the courses taught by these elders still benefited Hushi a lot. Her biggest problem now was that her foundation was not solid enough. So when Hushi went to the library, she would stay on the first floor where there was almost no one there. Most of the books on the first floor were elementary books on various basic cultivation methods, including the most simple theories on pill refining, forging, medical skills, and arrays. Those who could enter the Miracle Healer Academy were all talented. They had been familiar with the basic theories, but only Hushi was an outlier. In pill refining, she had now reached the level of a great master, but she had little understanding of some basic theories. The same was true for her cultivation. Therefore, these elementary books, that were ignored by other students, made Hushi eager to read. This happened many times, and the administrator of the library and some students started to notice Hushi's actions. Originally, if someone read elementary books every day like Hushi, and he is a student from the Huang Medical Branch, he would definitely be ridiculed and despised. But she was different. Chapter 1207. Problems with the pill formula nowadays. Who didn't know that Shiyu's pill refining level had amazed all the teachers and students in the second round of entrance assessment. A martial artist of the foundation establishment stage had refined a 5 spiritual pill of grade 4, and it was even the best quality pill. Could anyone simply laugh at and despise her? Not to mention, she could resist a rank 7 magical beast alone with her low cultivation. So, everyone was focusing on the wrong spot. Just because Shiyu squatted on the first floor of the elementary library every day, everyone thought that there was a precious secret book in the elementary library, so they rushed to the elementary library to search for treasure. The library on the first floor, which was empty usually, suddenly became overcrowded. However, when they went to look at the book Hushi read, they were all dumbfounded. What is this? Leading chi into the body, breathing, and spiritual power operation. It's just what we have learned a long time ago. So, what exactly is Shiyu looking at here? However, these people couldn't catch Hushi's attention at all. She had now finished sweeping the elementary books on the first floor, and she went to the second floor. Although the reading of the books on the first floor also required points, 1 point could let her read for a whole day. But the books on the second floor were much more expensive. Reading 5 books had to pay 1 point. For a poor student like Hushi, she really didn't have enough points. Therefore, on this day, she carefully selected for a long time before taking a pill formula book. The books of Miracle Healer Academy were all made of a special paper instead of inscribed jade slip. This ancient book of pill formula was new instead. Apparently, no one really read it. It was not that this pill formula book was not profound, but because it was too profound and the explanation was not detailed. Many spiritual herbs mentioned in it cannot be found in the Miluo continent, so they were gradually ignored. Because the ordinary pill refiner could refine according to the method even if he read this book. However, Hushi was very satisfied with this pill formula book, because it was the only book that she could read the refining methods and theories of the grade 5 and 6 medicinal pills with the minimum points. Time passed by slowly. Hushi was so immersed in this pill formula book that she almost forgot everything. However, Hushi frowned from time to time when she saw the last part of the book. Why? Do you have any questions after reading this book? Hushi raised her head suddenly, and she suddenly recovered her senses. She saw an unshaven old man in front, and she stood up in surprise and said, "Dean Zhang, why are you here?" Zheng Shouyue touched his beard and stared at Hushi for a while. There were inexplicable emotions in his eyes which seemed to be sad and also hope. He coughed lightly, restrained his emotions, and smiled. This book is a little too deep for you. Even some elders in the academy who specialize in pill refining can't understand it. It's normal for you to read with a little understanding. You can choose some intermediate pill refining books first, and you can ask me if you have any questions. Hushi shook her head and said, No, I think this book is very easy to understand. It's just that there are some problems with the pill formula in it. There are some problems with the pill formula? Zheng Shouyue frowned when he heard this. He originally had high hope on this student, but at this moment, he was dissatisfied with her arrogant attitude. Chapter 1208. Yin and Yang Offset. A freshman who has just entered the academy actually said that she could understand this book, Ancient Pill Code. He had also read this book, and he still couldn't fully comprehend the understanding in it. However, thinking of Shi Yu's outstanding talent, Zheng Shouyue still took over the book from Shi Yu. What was written on it was the simplest formula for the blood healing pill, and it was a grade 3 blood healing pill. This was very popular in the current Miluo continent. Zheng Shouyue took a look. After determining that the pill formula was the same as his common pill formula, he couldn't help frowning and said, Isn't this the ordinary blood healing pill formula? What's the problem? These medicinal pills had been used for thousands of years, and no one had ever raised any doubts. How could there be a problem? But thinking that Shi Yu was at the age of learning, so he was relieved again. Putting the ancient pill code on the table, Zheng Shouyue stroked his beard and said with a smile, If you have any questions, you can go to my pill refiner and try to refine it a few times. After refining, you will know the essence of this pill formula. You will understand why such a pill formula has been circulating in Miluo continent for thousands of years. Hushi shook her head and chuckled. I know without refining it, there is a big problem with this pill formula. Zheng Shouyue was a little unhappy now, but he still calmly said, Then tell me, what's wrong with this pill formula? The library had always been quiet. Because of their argument, many students were attracted. Originally, some people wanted to scold them for being noisy, but when they saw their identities, they all shut up. Especially when everyone found that Zheng Shouyue was looking at Shi Yu's unkind eyes, and they immediately guessed that Shi Yu was hated by this tea. They couldn't help but gloat at the misfortune. However, Hushi didn't notice the onlookers and Zheng Shouyue's displeasure. She just stretched out her slender finger, tapped on the book, and said calmly, There are two main medicines in this pill formula. They are fire essence jujube and ice flower. Fire essence jujube produces blood and ice flower nourishes veins. If they are separated, there is no problem, but if they are combined to refine pills, there will be a problem. Before Zheng Shouyue asked another question, Hushi continued. Although these two spiritual herbs do not conflict with each other in terms of efficacy, they are one of fire and one of water, one of yang and the other of yin. The yin and yang of the medicinal properties offset each other. Although the medicinal pills are not harmful to the human body, they greatly waste the value of the pill itself. Moreover, once the amount of fire essence jujube and ice flower is adjusted improperly, the medicinal pills will contain cold poison or fire poison. If one takes these medicinal pills for a long time, his body will definitely be harmed. Dean Zheng, what do you think of this? Zheng Shouyue was stunned, staring at the young man with wide eyes. Then he muttered to himself after a while, Yin and Yang offset each other? Yes, it really is one Yin and one Yang. Will they really offset each other? The students' onlookers were even more uproar when they heard Shi Yu's remarks. Some were disdainful, some were puzzled, and some were shocked. What Yin and Yang offset each other? He is just bullshitting. This is a pill formula that has been handed down for thousands of years. Can Shi Yu change it himself? I think what Shi Yu said is not unreasonable. I heard that some people who take the inferior blood supplement pills will inexplicably get fire poison. I've never heard of anyone who can modify pill formula by themselves. What if the refined medicinal pills cause death to people? Chapter 1209. Improvement Method. A person suddenly rushed out of the crowd, grabbed Hushi's hand, and said nervously, You said that the fire essence jujube and ice flower offset each other. So do you have any way to improve it? Hushi looked up in amazement. She found that the person grabbed her hand was a young man with an ordinary appearance and big ears. But his eyes were extremely clear and bright. When he talked about medicinal pills, his eyes seemed to be burning. Someone in the crowd recognized this person. Isn't that Joshua from Heaven Medical Branch? I heard that he is a pill maniac. He is not interested in anything other than pill refining. Even his cultivation didn't increase much. He has entered the Miracle Healer Academy for more than 2 years, and he is still in the early stage of the Gold Core stage. It's also because his cultivation can't be improved, which made him unable to refine high-grade medicinal pills, so he is almost abandoned by the elders now. Maybe he will fall to the Earth Medical Branch next year. The people around were criticizing Joshua, but Joshua didn't seem to notice. He stared at Hushi without blinking. His burning eyes could seem to burn a hole on her face. Hushi didn't care about his rudeness. She waved her hand slightly to shake him off and smiled slightly. What if I replace the Fire Essence Jujube with Ice Crystal Jujube? Ice Crystal Jujube? Replace Fire Essence Jujube with Ice Crystal Jujube? Joshua murmured and repeated Hushi's words as if falling into a madness. Yes, Ice Crystal Jujube also has the effect of generating blood, and its Ice Crystal attribute and Ice Flower's Ice attribute won't offset each other, but they will complement each other. But in this way, won't there be too much cold poison in the medicinal pills? Hushi raised her brows and said leisurely, whether it will contain cold poison, try it and you'll know. Zhang Shoyue was also impatient at this time. Shiyu, let's go to the pill refining room of Huang Medical Branch now and try the pill formula you mentioned. Then they came to the pill refining room of Huang Medical Branch. There were also students following behind them. Almost all the students in the library who watched this scene followed. They all had to witness with their own eyes whether the pill formula, which had been handed down for thousands of years, could be improved. In the pill refining room of Huang Medical Branch, there were only a few students doing pill refining. Everyone's face was full of disappointment. Of course, the environment here was also very bad. The spirit in the air couldn't even be felt. Noticing that a group of people came in and many of them were students of the 4 upper courtyards, these people stopped refining pills and stood up awkwardly. Many of the students of the 4 upper courtyards were full of despise when looking at the finished products they refined. Those were residues or low-grade medicinal pills. Even an idiot like Joshua showed a worried look, grabbed Hushi and said, "Go to my pill refining room. I have carved several spirit gathering arrays there. You will definitely be able to refine good medicinal pills." Joshua's words made the people of Huang Medical Branch bow their heads one after another, showing humiliation and anger. Hushi refused nonchalantly. No need. As long as you have the ability, it's the same to refine pill anywhere. What's more, isn't it just grade 3 blood healing pill? Is there a need for making such a fuss? Except for Joshua, who was a pill maniac, looked convinced and admired. Everyone else showed a sneering look. Several people in Heaven Medical Branch snickered, waiting for Hushi to make a fool of himself. Hushi took some spiritual herbs from the storage shelf in the Huang Medical Branch's pill refining room, looked at a boy who was paler than others, and said, "Can you help me process these herbs?" Chapter 12:10. Pills refined many spirit herbs that were freshly picked and stored needed to be processed before refining. However, this kind of trivial, boring, and unskilled work used to be easily handled by Little Egg with a wave of his paws, so Hushi didn't know how to process them until now. The young man widened his eyes in shock, pointed at himself and said, "Me? Me?" Hushi nodded. "You don't want to?" Then she frowned. "I can pay you a point." Joshua was anxious, and he immediately said, "I'll do it. Shiyu, let me handle the herbs for you. You just need to hurry up and refine the new blood healing pill." "No, please let me do it." The young man stepped forward and said with a trembling tone, "I can handle these herbs." Saying that, he grabbed the herbs from Hushi's hand and started to process them seriously. Joshua wanted to say something, but when he saw the colorful colors on the boy's fingers, he paused. This is the trace left by processing herbs for a long time. Is Shiyu looking for him because he sensed the young man's abilities? The red spiritual fire was burning in the pill refining furnace. That's right, not the golden spiritual fire, not the Danteon fire in Hushy's body, but the earth spiritual fire she accidentally acquired in the elusive forest. In fact, this grade 3 blood healing pill, according to Hushy's previous practice, she could refine them in 15 minutes. But now there were too many people watching. In order to avoid attracting unnecessary attention, she used the earth's spiritual fire and followed the steps described in the book. Soon, the medicinal pills were refined. The top of the cauldron was opened, and a strong medicinal fragrance came out. Looking at the 16 medicinal pills neatly arranged in the pill cauldron, the pill refiners in Huang Medical Branch all gasped. No one knew how shabby the Huang Medical Branch's pill refining room was than the people who refine pills here every day. Among them, there were not many people who could successfully refine a batch of medicinal pills every day. Even if they succeeded, there were only 2 to 3 pills. But what about Shiyu? She just casually refined 16 pills in a cauldron, using the spiritual herbs of the most average quality. The only person in the audience who pouted and shook head was probably Hushy. Sure enough, without using her own refining method and spiritual fire, she couldn't bear to look at the pity amount. If she had such low efficiency in pill refining on weekdays, Shengda Hall would have closed down early. Although the people in the 4 upper courtyards were not as shocked as the people in the Huang Medical Branch, they no longer dared to look down on Shiyu. Although they knew that Shiyu's pill refining skill was excellent, hearing it was different from seeing it with their own eyes. Jia Shujia had completely lost his mind at this time. He grabbed one of the medicinal pills with shock and excitement, and his voice was shaking. He really did it? I didn't expect that the pills are really refined after changing the formula. Doesn't this mean all the pill formulas can be modified? No, I have to try the effect of this pill first. As he spoke, he was about to stuff it in his mouth. His classmate from Heaven Medical Branch quickly grabbed his hand and said anxiously, "Shujia, are you crazy? These medicinal pills have not been tested yet. Who knows what will happen after you eat them?" Yeah, if the ice properties of ice crystal jujube and ice flower are condensed in the medicinal pills, wouldn't you be infected with cold poison? Chapter 12:11. Pill refining genius Jia Shujia looked depressed and wanted to try, but he was really afraid that something wrong would happen. Suddenly, a bony but colorful hand stretched out from the side, took the medicinal pills, and swallowed it in one mouthful. Someone couldn't help but let out an exclamation. It turned out that it was the young man who had just processed the herbs for Shiyu. He swallowed the medicinal pills in Jia Shujia's hands without hesitation. For a while, there was silence in the medicinal pills room. Everyone looked at the pale young man. He frowned slightly, his lips pursed tightly, and his cheeks flushed slightly as if he was enduring some kind of pain. Look, I told you that there is a problem with the medicinal pills. He is beyond saving now. If she can casually change the pill formula, then there will not only be so little medicinal pills on Miluo continent. Just when everyone was gloating over the misfortune, Jia Shujia threw away his friend's hand and rushed to the young man, grabbed his hand and began to examine his body. The young man seemed to have recovered at this time. His originally pale face was filled with a bit of ruddy. He looked at Hushy with touching tears. Senior Shi, can I take a few more medicinal pills? Hushy spread her hands slightly. These 15 are all yours. Wait, Jia Shujia jumped in shock. He grabbed one pill and said anxiously, I want it too. Give me a few. After speaking, without even waiting for Shiyu to answer, he swallowed the medicinal pills in his hand. When the medicinal powers melted in his body, Jia Shujia showed a fascinated expression. His body trembled with excitement. Wonderful. It's really wonderful. Just changed one herb. I didn't expect it to have such an effect. Shiyu, you're truly a genius of pill refining. As soon as Jia Shujia said this, everyone in the pill refining room all looked at Hushy in shock. The boy took 2 medicinal pills a little embarrassedly, kept them carefully and said, Senior Shi, I have suffered from blood loss since I was a child. I have to take hundreds of blood healing pills every year, but not only my blood loss is cured, but it also caused a dryness heat in my body and an imbalance of yin and yang. I can't even refine pills anymore. But after taking the blood healing pill you refine, I feel that the dryness heart has disappeared, and my blood is recovered by more than 3 times when taking the other blood healing pills. Senior Shi, you are really amazing. Hushi smiled and looked the young man up and down. You are a student of the Huang medical branch, right? Me too. So don't call me Senior Shi, call me Shiyu. The young man nodded with eyes full of admiration and excitement. But before he could speak again, the students who heard the words swarmed up and snatched all the medicinal pills in the pill cauldron. Zheng Shouyue held the only one of the medicinal pills he grabbed with an ugly face. He felt very displeased. They were obviously his students. How could he fight with other students just for a pill refined by his student? Jia Shujie was even more sad that he didn't take more. Zheng Shouyue swallowed the medicinal pill and determined that the efficacy of the medicinal pills was enhanced without containing any cold poison. He couldn't help but wonder, Shiyu, why do the spiritual herbs of ice attribute complement each other to enhance the pill without producing cold poison? Chapter 12:12. Accept me as your disciple, okay? Hushi smiled leisurely. She swayed her finger gently, and a flame appeared at her fingertip. Of course, it's because of spiritual fire. After ice crystal jujube and ice flower are put into the pill cauldron, I wrap them with spiritual fire and absorb the coldness of the herbs bit by bit with spiritual fire, but it won't offset their medicinal effects. In this way, the efficacy of medicinal pills is naturally doubled. Zheng Shouyue was stunned for a moment. Then he clapped and laughed. Yes, spiritual fire belongs to Yang, but it is heaven Yang. It will not conflict with medicinal properties. As long as the spiritual fire expels the coldness of spiritual herbs, it will naturally double its effectiveness. But the smile on Zheng Shouyue's face turned into shock immediately, and he looked at Hushi in a daze for a while before saying, Shiyu, even if ordinary people know the properties of medicine, they would not have thought of such a refining method. How did you think of it? Hushi frowned, and she said as if it was normal, is there a need to think? Shouldn't you know the refining method after getting familiar with the various properties of spiritual herbs? For example, if the coldness remains, then use spiritual fire to remove it. For example, ice flower is soluble. It dissolves while the coldness is expelled. Then it will naturally merge with the ice crystal jujube. Isn't it normal? Zheng Shouyue opened his mouth, but couldn't say a word for a while. Is it normal? Yes, it is normal. However, without anyone giving advice and guidance, who would have thought, who could have done it? However, this young man did it, and he did it so easily like breathing in and out. He didn't hesitate at all. Ice crystal jujube replaces fire essence jujube, which not only improves the medicinal properties of medicinal pills, but it also reduces the cost. Because on Miluo continent, the price of ice crystal jujube is much lower than that of fire essence jujube, but the effect of blood healing pill has been more than doubled. The young man looks so calm. Does he know what shocking things he has done? Zheng Shouyue took a deep breath and suddenly said in a deep voice, Shiyu, can you write me this improved new pill formula? Hushi shrugged. Of course. After that, she took out a blank inscribed jade slip and quickly engraved the pill formula. Although the efficacy of this kind of blood healing pill had been improved, in the cultivation world, the so-called blood healing pill was really not very useful. She was not even interested in selling it in Shengda Hall, so she might as well give it to Dean Zheng. Zheng Shouyue took over the pill formula recorded on the inscribed jade slip and hurriedly left the room. The students present were still a little lost looking at Dean Zheng leaving in a hurry. Is this the same Dean Zheng that we have been imagining? Hushi was also a little surprised. She didn't know what Dean Zheng was going to do with that pill formula, but it had nothing to do with her. As she turned around and was about to leave, she was grabbed by Jia Shujie. Shiyu? No. Senior Shi, can you teach me about pill refining? No. Can you accept me as an apprentice? As long as you can let me learn pill refining with you, I can do anything for you. Hushi's mouth twitched, and she said resolutely, I refuse. Then, she disappeared in place. Jia Shujie looked dejectedly at the hands that were holding the corners of her clothes just now, but they were nothing. He immediately looked depressed. Then he immediately clenched his fist and said, No, I must learn pill refining from Senior Shi. The young man on the side was holding the 2 blood-healing pills in his hand with a look of fascination. Chapter 12:13. Existing Pill Formula Elder Council. At this time, the main hall of the Elder Council was almost occupied by the deans and elders of each branch. In addition to these elders, there were also Lu Zhishi, the president of the Academy Student Council, and Jiang Zhongqing, the new deputy president. Deputy Dean Jiang, who was sitting at the top, held the pill formula copied by hand, and his expression became more and more solemn. He looked at Zheng Shouyue with scorching eyes. Dean Zheng, are you sure this pill formula was improved by Shiyu? It can refine a more effective blood-healing pill? Zheng Shouyue stood up and nodded without hesitation. This is the pill formula that I watched Shiyu change with my own eyes. After I got the pill formula and the refining method, I tried it myself. This is the medicinal pill I refined. Deputy Dean Jiang took the medicinal pill that Zheng Shouyue handed over. After confirming the efficacy, his face also showed an excited look. The new pill formula, which hasn't appeared in Miluo continent for thousands of years, has now been developed by our students at Miracle Healer Academy. If this story spreads out, then our Miracle Healer Academy's reputation will rise again. Great, Shouyue, you have done a great job in this matter. That student named Shiyu, I will award him with generous points, and I will also commend him in the entire academy. Wait a minute. Before Deputy Dean Jiang's words were finished, Jiang Zhongqing, who was sitting beside Lu Zhishi, suddenly stood up and said, Dean Jiang, I think we shouldn't proceed Shiyu's commendation. About this new pill formula, we must not claim that it is developed by our academy. Otherwise, our Miracle Healer Academy will become the laughing stock of the entire Miluo continent. Deputy Dean Jiang stopped and said with annoyance, What do you mean by that? Zheng Shouyue said even more angrily, I know that your Academy Student Council has some conflicts with Shiyu, but isn't it too much to cover up Shiyu's achievements like this? Jiang Zhongqing smiled and said, Dean Jiang and Dean Zheng, please calm down, I have a basis for saying this. Because the pill formula of this blood-healing pill is not improved by Shiyu at all, it has originally existed. Our president has seen this pill formula a few years ago, but because blood-healing pills are useless for martial artists, refining them is useless, so it has not been publicized. He said and sneered, I didn't expect that Shiyu was so despicable and shameless. She saw this pill formula, but she isn't humble like our president. Instead, he took this pill formula for his own. If we really publicize this pill formula and are found out that Shiyu plagiarized other people's pill formula, wouldn't it put shame on our Miracle Healer Academy? What? You saw this pill formula a few years ago? Deputy Dean Jiang looked at Lu Zhishi. Is this true? Lu Zhishi smiled and stood up and said, It's true. There is an ancient book in our Doctors Association that records this pill formula. If Jiang Dean doesn't believe it, you can ask my father. On this matter, Zhishi will never dare to lie. Deputy Dean Jiang suddenly lost his enthusiasm when he heard the words. The great achievement had vanished in the blink of an eye. Just as Jiang Zhongqing said, if this matter was found out after being publicized, how shameful the Miracle Healer Academy would be. Thinking of this, he glared at Zheng Shouyue angrily and left. When the other deans and elders saw that the matter had ended hastily, they all gloated over the misfortune and laughed at Zheng Shouyue and hurried away. Chapter 12:14. Sore spot. Zheng Shouyue stood there with an ashen face, unable to recover from the sudden blow. Jiang Zhongqing walked up to him and sneered, Dean Zheng, you handed in this pill formula today because you want to re-enter the power center of Miracle Healer Academy? It's a pity that you don't know the person well and mistakenly thought he is talented. Your dream has vanished as well. Ha ha ha. Zheng Shouyue stared at Jiang Zhongqing coldly, and he suddenly released the spirit pressure. Jiang Zhongqing's face turned pale, staggered back a few steps and spouted blood. At this moment, the arrogance on his face turned into fear with a hint of resentment in it. He glared at the unremarkable old man in front of him. He had just forgotten that this old man, who looked lousy, was a master at the nascent soul later stage. How could he provoke casually? At this moment, Lu Zhishi slowly stepped forward and said to Zheng Shouyue, Dean Zheng, my subordinate is ignorant. Please don't be bothered by him. Zhang Shouyue frowned and stared at Lu Jishi coldly. Did you really see that pill formula in any ancient book? Lu Jishi smiled. Of course it's true. Telling this kind of lie will not benefit Jishi at all. If anyone checks it, wouldn't my lie be exposed? If Dean Zhang still doesn't believe it, Jishi will let father immediately send the ancient book through black market. Zhang Shouyue's face was gloomy and uncertain. He never believed that Shiyu made such changes because he had seen the pill formula. He was clearly familiar with the various attributes of the blood-healing pill formula, and all the reasoning processes were well-founded and convincing. How could this be a lie? A hint of smugness flashed in Lu Jishi's eyes. She greeted Jiang Zhongqing to go out. However, before they reached the door, Zhang Shouyue's cold voice suddenly came from behind. Lu Jishi, you said you have seen pill formula, such a novel pill formula. Have you really never tried refining it once? Lu Jishi paused slightly. The light in her eyes dimmed for a while. Then she turned around and smiled and said, "It's just a mere blood-healing pill. Isn't it normal that I didn't think about refining it?" Zhang Shouyue sneered. Did you never think about refining? Or did you fail refining it? Lu Jishi's face changed slightly. What does Dinzing mean? Zhang Shouyue laughed. His eyes were full of contempt. You know what it means the best. With Shiyu's ability, do you think that if you stop him this time, he won't be able to become famous? He can improve a kind of medicinal pills, so he can also improve the second and third. As for you, Fairy Jishi, even if the ancient books in your hand really have various pill formulas, you must be able to refine them first. After speaking, Zhang Shouyue saw that Lu Jishi's face turned gloomy. Obviously, he hit his sore spot. He couldn't help being relieved for a while. The depression just now disappeared without a trace, and he left the Elder Council with a big laugh. Zhang Shouyue also suddenly remembered. If there is no pill refining method mentioned by Shiyu, even if I obtain the pill formula, I will not be able to refine it at all. Therefore, Lu Jishi may have pill formula in her hands, but she is absolutely lying when she said that she didn't think of refining it. And Shiyu's improvement of pill formula is definitely based on his own real talent. My student has amazing abilities. There will be times when you, Lu Jishi, will be jealous and go crazy in the future. Chapter 12-15. Immortal Mission Hall. The Mission Release Center of Miracle Healer Academy was an ancient building with carved beams and paintings. From the outside, the area of this ancient building was not large, but when one entered the lobby, he could feel the incomparable spaciousness. It was not a problem to keep thousands of people. Zhang Yi grabbed his brother Zhang Cheng's sleeve and stood nervously in front of the ancient building. He looked up and saw the plaque with the words Immortal Mission Hall written on it. Brother, my cultivation base is only at the meridian stage, and I haven't actually fought for many years. Are we really taking a mission? Zhang Cheng no longer had the decadence on his face at this time. Hearing that, he reached out and stroked his brother's head with a smile. What are you afraid of? Brother will definitely earn points for you. Because of Zhang Shouyue's protection, Zhang Cheng was not punished too severely. Only his points were deducted completely. However, because of his leak, Kai was sent to the Spirit Extinct Valley, which ruined his life. Zhang Cheng still felt extremely guilty. He had given up hope for his future, but he must give his younger brother a better future. Because Zhang Yi had been missing for several years, his cultivation has not improved, and he had no points. It was almost impossible for him to improve in Huang Medical Branch. The younger brother had such a good talent in beast taming. How could Zhang Cheng let him waste his whole life? So even if he had lost hope for his own future, he must let his younger brother live a good life. In Miracle Healer Academy, one could do nothing without points. If one wanted to earn points quickly, the best way was to take a mission at Immortal Mission Hall. Zhang Cheng dragged his younger brother into the Immortal Mission Hall, and the noisy atmosphere came at them. There were countless students and elders coming and going here every day. Some who issue missions, and some who accepted the missions. The mission level of Immortal Mission Hall was divided into 8 levels, Heaven, Earth, Xian, Huang, Yu, Zhou, Huang, which correspond to the names of the branches in the Miracle Healer Academy. The missions of each level would be projected on the bulletin board in detail so that people could view and accept. Of course, Immortal Mission Hall also had higher-level missions, but only elders, or those with a certain level of points, could accept them. They wouldn't be posted publicly in the lobby either. The students who stood in front of each bulletin board and checked the missions were very distinct. In particular, students in the 4 upper courtyards generally wouldn't accept missions above Huang level, and students in the 4 lower courtyards did not dare to go to the bulletin boards of the first 4 levels. Chapter 12:16. Make things difficult. Zhang Chang's face turned gloomy. He wanted to refute this officer, but he had to endure it and said, I know the danger of the mission, but I still want to accept this mission. Please help. Officer Zhang, we want to take this mission too. Please register for us. Zhang Chong was interrupted before he could finish his words. A student dressed in Earth Medical Branch gave Zhang Chong a provocative look and handed over his inscribed jade slip. The officer's face was immediately filled with a smile. He took the inscribed jade slip from the student without hesitation and made the registration. Zhang Chong took a deep breath and suppressed the anger in his heart. Officer Zhang, please help me. Go away. Don't bother me. Officer Zhang waved his hand impatiently. This mission quota is full. You find another mission. Each mission had an upper limit of simultaneous acceptance. Some were 1, and some were a few. Once the amount was filled, the mission would be removed from the board. Zhang Chong glared angrily. Officer Zhang, I clearly asked for registration first. The officer sneered. Without even looking at him, he handed the registered inscribed jade slip to the student of the Earth Medical Branch. The student of Earth Medical Branch took the inscribed jade slip and smiled smugly at Zhang Chong. You should know your limit. If I were from the Huang Medical Branch, I would be embarrassed to come to a mortal mission hall, but you even dare to take a Huang-level mission. Stop kidding us. You. Zhang Chong wanted to get angry, but he was pulled by Zhang Yi. Zhang Yi's face was flushed, and he said with pleading in his eyes, Brother, if you fight in a mortal mission hall, you will be punished severely. Forget it, brother. Let's go. Zhang Chong's hands loosened and clenched several times before suppressing the anger in his heart. Little E, don't worry. If we can't take this mission, we'll change another mission. After speaking, Zhang Chong took Zhang Yi back to the bulletin board. However, the same scene was repeated again. Zhang Chong asked the officer to register with the inscribed jade slip, but the officer always ignored him. If other students from the 4 upper courtyards came to register, he greeted them with a smile. Zhang Chong repeated it several times, and it was the same. The mission he chose would be taken every time. He finally knew that these people were indeed deliberately making things difficult for him and would never let him take the mission. Mr. Jiang, Immortal Mission Hall has stipulated that anyone can accept mission of all levels. You have violated the regulations of the Immortal Mission Hall. Aren't you afraid that I report this to the Elder Council? Ha ha ha! Officer Jiang laughed loudly when he heard the words. Do you think a trash from Huang Medical Branch can speak to the Elder Council? We won't let you accept the missions of the 4 upper courtyards for your own good. You have crossed the line yourself, so don't blame us for bullying you. Zhang Chong's eyes were filled with anger, and his body trembled slightly. Don't go too far. I can choose what level of mission to take. Although I'm in the Huang Medical Branch, I have the ability to take the mission of the 4 upper courtyards. Why can't I take it? Whoever has the strength will take the mission. Isn't this the rule of the Immortal Mission Hall? Director Jiang smiled mockingly and said lightly, Okay, you want to take the 4 upper courtyards mission, right? Now there are only heaven-level missions left. Do you want to take it? Zhang Chong was speechless for a while. Chapter 12:17. Heaven-level mission, heaven-level quest. Even if he used to be in Heaven Medical Branch, he would not dare to accept it randomly. That was a mission with a danger level so high that it might kill him. Officer Zhang and a few students from Heaven and Earth Medical Branch suddenly laughed out loud. Didn't you arrogantly say that whoever has the strength can take the mission? Why are you scared now? Zhang Chong's face flushed red. He was about to rush forward to say that he wanted to take the mission, but was immediately pulled by someone. A young man from the Xin Medical Branch shook his head at Zhang Chong and said, Zhang Chong, don't be impulsive. You can simply take heaven-level mission. This young man had been helped by Zhang Chong, so now he kindly reminded him. The young man vaguely pointed to a tall and slender man not far away and said in a low voice, "See that? Do you remember who that person is? Do you want to randomly accept a mission and end up like him?" Zhang Chong's eyes followed the young man's fingers, and he quickly saw who the person was. He trembled. All his anger turned into fear. He no longer dared to say that he was going to accept heaven-level mission. Officer Jiang and the students had anticipated that Zhang Chong would chicken out, so they looked at each other, laughed, and left. No one cared about Zhang Chong anymore. Zhang Yi also breathed a sigh of relief. Seeing that his brother kept looking at the man not far away, he couldn't help but wonder, "Brother, who is that person? Do you know him?" Zhang Chong's brows twitched. He said hoarsely after a while, "His name is Jin Ziyu. He used to be the president of the Academy Student Council." "What?" Zhang Yi exclaimed. Even though he had been locked in a small courtyard, he knew what kind of existence the president of the Academy Student Council was. But why? This person had a handsome appearance, sharp and calm eyes, but his spiritual power fluctuations are chaotic and weak. His cultivation is clearly worse than mine. How can such a person become the president of the Academy Student Council? Zhang Chong sighed and said in a low voice, "When Jin Ziyu was the president, I hadn't joined the Academy Student Council, but I also knew that he was extremely talented and had the best strength. At that time, even Lu Zhishi, the current president, would be overshadowed by his talents. However, an accident happened 3 years ago." "What accident?" Jin Ziyu took on a heaven-level mission, which was the most difficult one. No one could finish the mission. However, everyone thought that if it was Jin Ziyu, he would definitely accomplish the mission. But in the end, he failed. Not only did he fail, but Jin Ziyu's confidants, the former Academy Student Council's officers, were killed and injured more than half. He himself was also seriously injured, and his cultivation had plummeted to the foundation establishment stage. In this way, he is completely useless. Zhang Yi exclaimed and said in disbelief, "How could it be like this? No one knows what happened in that mission." Zhang Chong shook his head and said, "Miracle Healer Academy is a place where the strong prey on the weak and respect the strength. Jin Ziyu's cultivation has dropped greatly, and he almost has no chance of advancing to the nascent soul stage in his life. So he had been dismissed from the president of the Academy Student Council. He was also transferred to the Huang Medical Branch. Jin Ziyu can be considered a man of perseverance. In just over 2 years, he returned from the foundation establishment stage to the meridian stage intermediate stage. But, sigh, a good genius is ruined after all." Chapter 12:18. Ungrateful. After Zhang Chong said this, he was a little dispirited. He took Zhang Yi to accept 2U level missions and was about to leave. Quests down the 4th level earn very few points and are often tedious, taking a lot of work instead. This was not the way Zhang Chong hoped to earn points, but he had no other way. When Zhang Chong was about to leave, a group of people was about to come into the Immortal Mission Hall. Zhang Chong used to be from the Heaven Medical Branch, so he naturally knew who these people were. The man in the middle of the gold core stage, who looked 20 years old, was called Tu Younghao. Relying on his elder, who was an elder in the Miracle Healer Academy, and his talent, he had always been arrogant and domineering. So, Zhang Chong disliked him very much. When Tu Younghao passed by Zhang Chong, he glanced at him disdainfully, but he ignored him. Instead, he walked straight past Jin Ziyu and bumped him heavily. This bump used spiritual power, so Jin Ziyu stumbled for a while. Tu Younghao pretended to have just discovered it, and he turned around and exaggeratedly shouted, "Oh, I wonder who did I bump into? It turns out to be President Jin. Did I President Jin just now? After all, President Jin only has so much cultivation now." Halfway through, he suddenly paused and pretended to slap his face. He laughed, "No, please forgive my poor memory. I forgot that, Jin Ziyu. You are no longer the president. How arrogant were you back then, President Jin? It was really hard to just see your face." Ha ha ha. Jin Ziyu slowly stood up straight. There was no emotional fluctuation on his handsome face, but his eyes were deep and scary. When Tu Younghao was being stared like this, he immediately felt horrified. After realizing that he was afraid of a Foundation establishment stage trash, he said in anger, "Jin Ziyu, what is that gaze? Don't forget that you are just a trash in the Huang Medical Branch. Do you still think you are the president of the Academy Student Council?" As he said, he stepped forward and released spirit pressure. Zhang Chong frowned as he watched from the side. Thinking that someone like Jin Ziyu had been reduced to the current field, he felt unbearable in his heart. However, he was also in a difficult situation now. How could he still meddle in others' business? However, just as Tu Yonghao was about to approach Jin Ziyu, 3 people quickly ran out of the crowd to block in front of Jin Ziyu. One of them, a burly man, stopped in front of Jin Ziyu and said angrily to Tu Yonghao, "Tu Yonghao, what are you doing? In front of so many people, are you going to bully boss in the Immortal Mission Hall?" Zhang Chong was stunned to see that the burly man's cultivation was at the Gold Core early stage, while the other 2 were also at the peak of the Meridian stage. But they were all wearing Huang Medical Branch's clothing. As soon as Tu Yonghao saw the burly man, he immediately squinted and sneered, "Qian Dazhuang, I didn't expect you to be so committed to Jin Ziyu. He is only at the Meridian stage now, but you are still willing to be his dog. Haha. Qian Dazhuang, are you born to be cheap? Or did you forget how you got transferred away from the Heaven Medical Branch?" When the man named Qian Dazhuang heard the words, he cursed angrily, "Tu Yonghao, I'm not an ungrateful dog like you. Did you forget that boss saved you once? If it weren't for him, do you think you can live until today? If I knew you are such an ungrateful animal, I should have let you die in that magical beast forest." Chapter 12:19. Kowtow 3 times. Qian Dazhuang's words made Tu Yonghao's face turn green and white. His cold and resentful eyes shifted from Qian Dazhuang to Jin Ziyu. Then he gritted his teeth and said, "Bah, what savior? If it weren't for you, Jin Ziyu, I would have been the backbone of the Academy Student Council now. If it weren't for you, I will be expelled from the Academy Student Council, and I will have no improvement in cultivation that I'm almost kicked out of Heaven Medical Branch." The more Tu Yonghao said, the more angry he became. "When you were the president, I served you like my master. But what did you do? You just gave the position of the deputy president to someone else in a blink of an eye. Haha, what's the result? The person you were looking for didn't die in that heaven-level mission, and you yourself fell to a miserable end. Jin Ziyu, let me tell you, this is your retribution." Having said that, Tu Yonghao walked in front of Jin Ziyu in a few steps, and the people behind him immediately surrounded Jin Ziyu and Qian Dazhuang at his signal. Jin Ziyu's eyes were cold, and he said in a deep voice, "What do you want to do?" "What do I want to do?" Tu Yonghao laughed. "What? Are you afraid now? You want me to let you go? Okay, if you Jin Ziyu kneel down and kowtow 3 times, I'll let you go. How about that?" Before Jin Ziyu said anything, Qian Dazhuang was already furious. He pulled Jin Ziyu behind him. "Tu Yonghao, you dare." Tu Yonghao laughed even more wildly. "Want to try if I dare?" With that said, he turned his gaze to Jin Ziyu. "If you don't kowtow to me, it will be the dogs around you who will suffer." As soon as he said that, the students who surrounded Jin Ziyu got a signal from Tu Yonghao and attacked. The students in Xianlifeng who were taking the missions all stopped their business and looked here. Some people resented Tu Yonghao's arrogance, but no one dared to go against Tu Yonghao. Although Tu Yonghao's grades in Heaven Medical Branch can only be at the bottom, he has an uncle who is an elder, and some students in Miracle Healer Academy are willing to be his thugs. If someone stood up for Tu Yonghao and offended Jin Ziyuqiang, his future would be difficult. The officer of the Immortal Mission Hall also knew that it was wrong to fight here, but he could only turn a blind eye to it. Most people under Tu Yonghao were from the Earth Medical Branch, and there were also 2 elites from the Heaven Medical Branch. Each of them was at the Gold Core stage. How could Jin Ziyu and his subordinates be their opponents? Qian Dazhuang, who had been trying his best to protect Jin Ziyu, was kicked in the abdomen, and he spat out a mouthful of blood. The other 2 were also kicked onto the ground. Their faces were pale, and their bodies twitched in pain. Tu Yonghao raised the sword in his hand and gestured it on Qian Dazhuang's body. Seeing Jin Ziyu's tense look, He immediately laughed and said, "Don't worry. I won't kill people in the Immortal Mission Hall. But well, it's just a trash of the Huang medical branch. If I abolish his cultivation a little, no one will question me, right?" "Jianziyu, are you kowtowing or not?" Jianziyu took a deep breath. His body was stretched straight from the humiliation, and his hands were clenched into fists. Blood dripped from his fingers. However, when he closed his eyes and opened them again, his eyes were already deep and clear. Chapter 12:20. Get out of the way. Jianziyu bent his knees and knelt to the ground with a thud. Then he said slowly, "Please, let Dazhuang and the others go." Ha 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 ha. Tu Yonghao's wild and unbridled laughter echoed in the Immortal Mission Hall. Okay. Jianziyu, you have such a day too? However, I remember I said that you have to kneel down and kowtow 3 times. You have just knelt down. Do you think that's enough? Jianziyu's lips trembled slightly. When he was about to kneel down, Tu Yonghao, who was stepped on by Qian Dazhuang, suddenly pounced toward Tu Yonghao furiously. "Bastard, I'll kill you." But how could Qian Dazhuang compete with Tu Yonghao with his cultivation? He just rushed in front of Tu Yonghao, and he was kicked away by him. The huge body flew straight in the direction of the gate enchantment. The momentum was so fierce that all the onlookers evaded in a panic. Seeing that Qian Dazhuang's body was about to fly out of the gate enchantment, a young man slowly appeared in the center of the gate. When Qian Dazhuang's body was about to collide with the young man, a pair of slender hands stretched out, caught him easily, and put him on the ground. Qian Dazhuang spat out a mouthful of blood. He fell in front of the young man with a weak breath. He seemed to be seriously injured, but his life was saved. The young man didn't seem to see the strong man who fell in front of him at all, and he just walked past him and went toward the direction of the heaven-level mission area. In the hall of Immortal Mission Hall, it fell into complete silence. All eyes were on the young man. He wasn't tall, and even a little thin, but his figure was slim, giving people an infatuation beauty. That face was as bright as the bright moon, as bright as a star. The lights in Immortal Mission Hall hid his face, making his face look like picturesque. His skin was as smooth as a cultivated white jade, and his long eyelashes drooped slightly, half covering those twinkling phoenix eyes. The young man walked slowly in the hall with seemingly no spiritual power fluctuation. He was at the foundation establishment stage at a glance, but no one dared to underestimate him. Even the students of Heaven Medical Branch were silent when they saw him. They kept quiet and looked away to avoid provoking him. The young man seemed to be the focus of everyone, but he wasn't bothered by the attention. He walked straight to the direction of the heaven-level mission area, but he soon found that the road ahead was blocked by Tu Yonghao's people who surrounded Jianziyu. The young man raised his long eyelashes, glanced at Tu Yonghao with cold gaze, and said coldly, "Get out of the way." Tu Yonghao's scorching eyes glanced at the young man, then he trembled and stepped back. But after taking a step back, he suddenly woke up and said angrily, "Shiyu, are you commanding me?" That's right. The young man who just entered Immortal Mission Hall was naturally hushy. She wanted to enter the enchantment, read more books, and study pill refining and array. But in this Miracle Healer Academy, these all require crystal stones, so she chose the easiest way and ran to Immortal Mission Hall to take the highest level mission and earn crystal stones in the fastest way. As for the disputes between others in Immortal Mission Hall, she had no interest in it. However, whoever stood in front of her, don't blame her for being rude. Chapter 12:21. Troublemaker Hushi sneered at the man in the gold core stage in front of him, and he said slowly, "Why? Don't want to make way? You want to taste the feeling of being thrown out? Or, you really want me to slice open your throat?" Hushi never forgets it. Maybe she didn't recognize him when she saw Tu Yonghao, but after searching in her memory, she quickly remembered it. Isn't he the gold core stage student who provoked her and didn't let me sit down in the Heaven Medical Branch? It seemed that he didn't learn from the previous lesson. From Hushi's right wrist, a purple vine flew out quietly and swayed slightly in the air, but her face was full of threatening half-smile. Tu Younghao only felt a burst of anger in his heart, but when he saw the young man's cold eyes and the purple vine, his original anger turned into panic. The students who were originally instructed by Tu Younghao all backed away with disheartened faces. They were unwilling to provoke the troublemaker, Shiyu. Yeah, the person in front of him was Shiyu. Although she was also a student of Huang Medical Branch, Shiyu was not expelled. She abandoned Heaven Medical Branch and ran to Huang Medical Branch. Many people saw Dean Li Chengchuan trying his best to keep her, but he was rejected by Shiyu. Shiyu's strength shocked everyone even more. Even though she was only at the Foundation Establishment stage, she defeated Feng Yunqing at the Gold Core Stage Intermediate stage, and she was able to compete with rank 7 magical beast in Elusive Forest. In addition to those who offended and framed Shiyu at the beginning, Chen Jianqing and Feng Yunqing were dead. Kaiyu was expelled to Spirit Extinct Valley for his lifetime. Even Elder Qin and Elder Fu, one was kicked out of the Miracle Healer Academy, and one was demoted to guard the equipment warehouse. Everyone who offended Shiyu didn't end well, so how could they not be fearful of her? Tu Younghao felt the atmosphere around him. No matter how unwilling he was, he could only obediently back away under Shiyu's sneering gaze. There was no obstacle in front of Hushi. She went straight to the heaven-level mission bulletin board. After looking around, she found that there was still a mission with a very high level of difficulty, collecting snow Ganoderma grass. She didn't even think about it before walking to the officer counter. I want to take the heaven-level mission to collect snow Ganoderma grass. Please help me register. As Hushi said, she took out her inscribed jade slip and handed it to the officer of the heaven-level mission area. However, after she handed out her hand for a long time, the officer looked at her in a dazed. He didn't come back to his senses for a long time. Hushi frowned and said displeasedly, "Did you hear me? Brother Shiyu." Before the officer could answer, a boy's delighted voice came from her ears. Hushi turned around and met Zhang Yijing's adoring eyes, and she couldn't help but smile. "Little E, why are you here?" Zhang Yi grabbed Zhang Chong and came to Hushi. "Brother Shiyu, this is my brother Zhang Chong. My brother and I came here to take over the task." Hushi glanced at Zhang Chong. He immediately lowered his head in shame, not knowing how to place his hands and feet in embarrassment. For Shiyu, Zhang Chong couldn't help but feel guilty. He had never done anything bad in his life, but he did something against his conscience on this young man. Even if it was made up later, there was no way to offset the unease and regret. Chapter 1222. Team Mission. Of course, Hushi recognized Zhang Chong, but she didn't have much anger. After all, Zhang Chong was just a pawn that was used by others. She just nodded slightly at Zhang Chong. For Zhang Yi's sake, Hushi would not blame him. Zhang Chong felt relieved when he saw the young man's natural smile. Hushi's attention had turned to the mission. Zhang Yi saw this, and he remembered how these people made things difficult for him and his brother just now. He complained furiously, "Brother Shiyu, they are too bad. Just now my brother and I came to accept the mission. They said that the students of Huang Medical Branch are only worthy of receiving the Huang-level missions. No one wanted to process our request to accept the 4 upper-level missions, and they even ridiculed us." Zhang Chong was a little stunned. My younger brother, who was still afraid of causing trouble, actually complained to Shiyu with righteous indignation. Moreover, my younger brother looks at Shiyu with confidence, as if he is not worried that Shiyu will be in trouble. Is this Shiyu really so powerful? Oh. Hushi responded with a slightly upturned voice, as if mocking and sneering. She glanced at the officer. "I'm a student of the Huang Medical Branch, so I can't take on the heaven-level mission. Is that right?" No. 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 Absolutely not. The officer in charge of the heaven-level mission suddenly recovered his sense. His face turned pale, and he immediately denied it. "Accepting missions is the freedom of every student. We will never dare to change the rules without authorization." "It's just what?" Hushi raised her eyebrow. "Is there any problem with me taking this mission?" "No. No problem." The officer shook his head again and again. Then he reminded cautiously, "It's just that the heaven-level missions are very dangerous. In order to ensure the safety of the students, the Academy has stipulated the conditions for accepting the heaven-level missions. That is, The number of people involved must be more than 10 to avoid too many casualties in the mission. Therefore, student Shi, if you take the mission now, you have to gather 10 people. Only then we can initiate the teleportation array to send you guys to the mission location. This regulation was understandable. After all, the safety of students was still very important to Miracle Healer Academy. For example, in this mission to collect snow Ganoderma grass, the snow Ganoderma grass was only rank 5, but it belonged to a kind of magical beast companion grass. Generally, there will be rank 6 magical beast next to the snow Ganoderma grass, and more than one. Rank 6 magical beast, even the martial artists of nascent soul stage had some difficulty to deal with it, let alone gold core stage students. It was just this rule that stumped Hashi. She hadn't been in the academy for long, so she had just known a few people. Even if Zhang Yi, Zhang Chong, and Wei Qingyuan were included, there were only 4. Moreover, Wei Qingyuan had been busy arranging the diagnosis and treatment of the mysterious man recently. It was even a problem to see him. Zhang Yi said without hesitation, "Brother Shiyu, can my brother and I also participate?" The corner of Zhang Chong's mouth twitched. My brother decided for me without even asking me? He suddenly felt that his position in his younger brother's mind had been left far behind by Shiyu. Holding the inscribed jade slip, Hashi said helplessly, "Even so, there are only 3 of us." Zhang Yi looked around and asked in a clear voice, "Any of you willing to do this heaven-level mission with us?" Chapter 12:23. 3 more. The students in the Immortal Mission Hall shook their heads one after another, secretly laughing at Zhang Yi for being ignorant. He didn't understand the horror of the heaven-level mission at all. However, she was there, so they didn't dare to say bad words. They just took a step back, expressing their unwillingness. Zhang Yi puffed up his cheeks depressedly. These people are really stupid. Brother Shiyu is so powerful. He will definitely be able to complete the heaven-level mission. By then, won't they get a lot of points? You will regret missing such a good opportunity in vain, humph? Suddenly, Zhang Yi's eyes fell on Jin Ziyu. He suddenly remembered his brother saying that Jian Ziyu used to be so powerful. Moreover, when they were bullied by Tu Yonghao and the others, they didn't give in, which made Zhang Yi both sympathize and admire them. He ran in front of Jin Ziyu and said with shining eyes, "Would you like to join us in the heaven-level mission?" Jin Ziyu was stunned for a moment. The boy's eyes were clear and his expression sincere. He didn't mean to ridicule him at all. Jin Ziyu raised his head and looked at the mission of collecting snow Ganoderma grass. That is snow Ganoderma grass. The originally dark and deep eyes fluctuated for a while, and there seemed to be a trace of emotion on the calm and unwavering face. However, the surrounding discussions, especially Tu Yonghao's laughter, just came into his ears. "Ha ha ha. You actually asked Jin Ziyu to join the team? I advise you to change someone else. Otherwise, I don't know how miserable you will be during the mission." Jin Ziyu's eyes darkened. He looked at Zhang Yi and said softly, "You have seen it. My current cultivation is not stable even in the meridian stage intermediate stage. If I follow you, I will only drag you down." Zhang Yi was stunned when he heard the words, and he immediately turned his inquiring eyes to Hashi. Hashi glanced at Jin Ziyu and raised his eyebrows. "How many people do you have?" Jin Ziyu was stunned for a moment. Before he could speak, a man beside him immediately said, "The 3 of us must follow boss to protect him." 3 plus Jin Ziyu. That's 4? Great. So there are 7. Hashi nodded happily. "Okay, little E, convince them to join in." Jin Ziyu's eyes flickered, and he blurted out, "Didn't you see it? Our cultivation is only meridian stage, and De Zhuang is seriously injured. He can't recover in a short time." Hashi glanced at the muscular man who was staggering back from the door, then she smirked. "It doesn't matter. He just has to come. As for the injury, it's just a small problem. It will definitely be cured before departing." Zhang Yi pulled his eyes back from Hashi, looking at Jin Ziyu with a proud expression of look. "My brother Shiyu is so cool, handsome, and arrogant. Bro, Brother Jin, can you join us? Brother Shiyu is very powerful. As long as he is there, we will definitely be able to complete the mission." Jin Ziyu looked stunned, stood for a long time, finally nodded and said, "Okay, we join." 7 people, 3 more. Hushi touched her chin with a headache. She glanced across the faces of everyone on the field. She was thinking whether to feed someone with the 100-day death powder and threaten them to sign up first. The students present felt immense stress being glanced by Hushi. They took a few steps back in fear. Chapter 1224. Bunch of trash say. Senior Shiyu, can I join too? A pale young man walked out of the crowd. Hushi quickly recognized the young man. He was from the Huang medical branch too, and he was an acquaintance. It was the young man who helped her process the herbs when she was refining the blood-healing pill some time ago. The young man's face was still pale at this time. He walked up to Hushi anxiously, lowered his head and said, "Senior Shiyu, my name is Fang Yuan. My 2 friends and I are willing to join, but our cultivation is only at the meridian stage later stage. Moreover, except from refining some low-grade medicinal pills, we can't do anything else. Senior Shi, can we join too?" Hushi looked at the 2 people behind. Indeed, their cultivation and their roots were only average. However, she didn't care about their cultivation at all because she could complete the mission on her own. Now all she lacked is the number of people. So she smiled, "Okay, welcome to join." Fang Fun was stunned for a moment. Then there was a hint of ecstasy in his eyes. But Fang Yuan's friend stepped forward and pulled him. Then they said to Hushi anxiously, "Say, Senior Shiyu, we can join. But if we can survive, can you promise us one thing?" "Say it." Fang Yuan had an anxious look on his face. He wanted to pull his friend back, but the young man's expression was firm, and he was less nervous. He said, "Senior Shiyu, Fang Yuan has blood deficiency since young. No matter what medicine he takes, it is useless. The blood-healing pill can relieve the pain, but it increases the fire poison in his body. Senior Shiyu, I heard that your medical skills are very high. Can you cure Fang Yuan's illness?" "Blood deficiency?" Hushi smiled and said without hesitation, "Okay, no problem." Without a trace of hesitation, she promised decisively. Fang Yuan's body trembled heavily, and tears were rolling in his eyes. "Senior Shiyu, can my illness really be cured?" Before Hushi could speak, Zhang Yi rushed over and boasted, "Student Fang, don't worry. Brother Shiyu's medical skills are amazing. My illness is much weirder than yours, but Brother Shiyu only uses half a month to cure it. Your blood deficiency is not a terminal illness, so you must be fine." Fang Yuan nodded heavily when he heard the words. His friends also looked joyful. Qian Dazhuang and others on the side also heard Hushi's conversation. Qian Dazhuang couldn't help but grab Jin Ziyu's hand and said in a trembling voice, "Boss, did you hear that? They said that Shiyu's medical skills are very high." Jin Ziyu's eyes lit up, but then dimmed again. A bitter smile emerged on his mouth. Hushi no longer hesitated and immediately submitted the inscribed jade slip to let the officer register the mission. The students on the side whispered gloatingly, "See, it's a whole team of Huang Medical Branch." If this kind of team can complete the heaven-level mission, that would be a miracle. Yeah, no matter how powerful Shiyu is, with a group of Meridian stage trash, what can he do? He will only drag himself down. Ha ha ha. Tu Yonghao looked even more sullen. He gave Jin Ziyu a cold look, waved to the person behind him and left. Chapter 1225. Illness. The Sun Moon Mountain Range was located in the northwest of Miracle Healer Academy, not far from Miracle Healer Academy. It was covered with green spiritual plants all year round, and the spiritual power in the mountains was strong, giving birth to a lot of magical beasts. Like the magical beasts in Breaking Spirit Mountain, the magical beasts here usually didn't have intelligence. They couldn't transform into human form. Miracle Healer Academy had set up many enchantments and teleportation arrays in the Sun Moon Mountain Range for students to practice and find rare materials here. Of course, because the magical beast level in the Sun Moon Mountain Range was usually relatively high, the difficulty level of missions related to this mountain range was relatively high. The map that Hashi stole from Lu Jishi also marked the Sun-Moon Mountain Range, but it wasn't in detail. It only roughly differentiated the level area of the magical beast, and it also indicated the locations where the 5th-grade spiritual grass might appear. But that was already enough for Hashi. She never backed down on the matter, she decided. After confirming the approximate location of the snow Ganoderma grass, she decided to set off the next day. It was just dawn. The dormitory area of Huang Medical Branch was still in complete silence. But in a dormitory in a remote area to the west, the lights were lit on amid a piercing cough. "Boss, how are you? Is it the illness again?" Qian Dazhuang, Chun Xiaofeng, and the another one suddenly woke up from their sleep and rushed to Jin Ziyu's bed. Jin Ziyu's face flushed with fright, and the heartbreaking cough couldn't stop no matter what. Qian Dazhuang hurriedly took a packet of medicinal powder from the side and wanted Jin Ziyu to eat it, but Jin Ziyu knocked it away. The medicinal powder was scattered all over the place, and the powder filled the air, exuding a sweet floral fragrance. Qian Dazhuang panicked. "Boss, what are you doing?" Jin Ziyu coughed again for a while, and he spurted blood on the sheets and bedding. Qian Dazhuang and Qian Xiaofeng looked at each other with ugly expressions. However, Jin Ziyu finally recovered. His face had returned to normal. Only the frightening purple was still on his lips. Chun Xiaofeng said worriedly, "Boss, if you don't take medicine, your next onset will be more serious. Moreover, that is the last package of medicine we have." There was a sneering wry smile at Jin Ziyu's mouth. "You guys really didn't find out? I have taken this medicine for so long. Can it heal me? No. It will only completely destroy my body and cultivation little by little, turning me into complete trash." Qian Dazhuang and Qian Xiaofeng both showed sad expressions. In fact, how could they not know the side effects of this medicine? But if he didn't take the medicine, his illness would become more and more serious. They and Jin Ziyu were brothers who had been through life and death. Watching their boss dying little by little, the feeling couldn't even be described as burning with anxiety. Jin Ziyu's expression immediately regained his composure. He glanced out the window, and a faint light came in through the window. "Dazhuang, is your injury really healed?" Qian Dazhuang immediately patted his chest when he heard the words. He said with a face full of surprise, "Yeah, I'm fully recovered. Hey boss, this kid named Shiyu really has some skills. Previously, if I suffered such an injury, I need at least 8 days to recover. But after taking his medicine, I actually recover in 1 day. Not only that, I also feel that my spiritual power seems to become more pure and solid." Chapter 1226. Ignorant Jin Ziyu's brows moved slightly, and he murmured, "Shiyu." Qin Xiaofeng reached out and grabbed the window edge of the upper bunk, and he looked at Jin Ziyu nervously. "Boss, do you think Shiyu's medical skills are really that high? If he can cure your disease, then..." Qian Dazhuang's eyes lit up, and he nodded again and again. "Boss, I think so too. As long as Shiyu can cure your disease, even if he let us be his servant for a lifetime, we will do it." Jin Ziyu shook his head with a wry smile. "Don't forget who caused my injury. No matter how good Shiyu is, can he be better than that person? Can he heal the internal injuries he left behind?" The dark and deep eyes slowly shrouded the numbness of despair and the unwillingness of resentment. He clenched his teeth tightly as if he wanted to tear something alive. However, everything was like an ever-ending dark night. There was no light of hope at all. The greater the hope, the greater the disappointment. Jin Ziyu closed his eyes. His voice was indescribably desolate. "Forget it. This time we only need to protect ourselves and get a snow Ganoderma grass. That's enough." Chun Xiaofeng's heart shuddered when he heard the words. His eyes were hot and wet. He slammed the wall with one hand. He knew that boss had given up on himself. He agreed to join Shiyu's party in this heaven-level mission, mainly because they could earn more points. He didn't want to drag them down. He wanted the snow Ganoderma grass to let him advance, so he risked his life to pick it. Chun Xiaofeng's spiritual root attribute was the dual spiritual root of mutated ice and earth. Over the years, his cultivation had been stuck at the peak of Meridian stage and couldn't make any progress. That was because the cultivation environment and resources of Huang Medical Branch were really poor. With snow Ganoderma grass, Chun Xiaofeng could promote to the gold core stage within half a year. But, boss, is there really no cure for him? In the morning, the teleportation array to the Sun-Moon mountain range was already crowded with people. Zhang Yi, Fang Yun, and the others were waiting there early. All of them were excited. Last night, Zhang Chong watched his silly brother stay up all night. He was so excited that he couldn't sleep. Now seeing Fang Yun and his two friends, he couldn't help shaking his head helplessly and worriedly. These little guys have been in the Huang Medical Branch all the time, so they don't even know the horror of the heaven-level mission. They actually treat this mission like an outing. But think about their team. Except me and that Qian Dazhuang are at the gold core stage. Others are at the Meridian stage. Oh no. There is also a Shiyu at the Foundation Establishment stage. How can such a party complete the heaven-level mission? It's already good that all of us don't die. Do they see the gloating look of the students around? Zhang Chong gritted his teeth and could only swear to himself that he would protect his younger brother no matter what, even sacrificing his own life. When Jin Ziyu and his three subordinates arrived, the laughter grew louder. A bunch of rubbish from Huang Medical Branch dares to challenge the heaven-level mission? Ha ha ha, they are so ignorant. Should we bet how many days they can stay in the Sun-Moon mountain range before they run away like a dog? How many days? I think they will be able to hold on even in a few hours. Especially when they even stupidly brought Jin Ziyu. That trash can't even take care of himself. What else can he do except be a burden? Ha ha ha. Chapter 1227. Brain is crazy. I think Shiyu has been touted too much recently that his brain is crazy. He actually, before the person could finish speaking, he suddenly felt a pain in his left cheek. A terrifying killing intent came to him. The hair on the temple beside his left cheek fell, accompanied by hair that fell from his cheek. The man trembled. His first reaction was not surprise and anger, but the fear of being completely suppressed. Immediately afterward, everyone saw the beautiful young man toward them. The dense long eyelashes were like small fans, gently drooping and lifting. She glanced at the man whose temple hair was cut with ridicule and said with a smile, "I'm sorry, whose brain did you say is crazy? I didn't hear it clearly. Can you say it again?" The soft and slow voice was so pleasant to the ear, but it made the student step back in fear. His head was shaking anxiously and his eyes were full of fear, but he couldn't say a word for a long time. Beside the teleportation array, there was silence. Even if Heaven and Earth Medical Branch were dissatisfied with Shiyu's arrogance, no one spoke up at this time. Not only because offending Shiyu on this trivial matter was not worth it, but also because the young man exuded an unmatched king aura, which made people inexplicably fear and surrender. Hushi looked around. Seeing that no one spoke, he waved to Zhang Yi and the others, "Let's go." The light of the teleportation array flickered and dimmed. The 10 figures disappeared without a trace in front of everyone. This time, all people breathed a sigh of relief and looked at each other for a while. They couldn't even curse. Someone couldn't help but mutter, "Why do I feel that facing Shiyu is more stressful than facing President Liu Zixi?" There were also the Academy Student Council's officers among the onlookers. Hearing this, their complexion looked ugly. Shiyu used her face slaps and strengths again and again to make the people in the Miracle Healer Academy dare not underestimate her. After they got teleported away, the people who were watching the excitement naturally retreated. However, after the crowd dispersed, a group of people quietly came to this teleportation array. Each of these people was at the level of the gold core stage. The young man leader even reached the gold core stage later stage. He looked at the center of the teleportation array with scorching eyes and sneered, "Jin Ziyu, if you have been obediently staying in Miracle Healer Academy, I really can't do anything about you. I didn't expect that you want to look for death yourself. It seems to be your destiny to die in the Sun-Moon mountain range." A young man dressed in Heaven Medical Branch beside him said in a low voice, "Brother Wu, I heard that Jin Ziyu enters the Sun-Moon Mountain Range with Shiyu. If we meet Shiyu, that Shiyu is just at the mere foundation establishment stage. Why would our brother Wu, the gold core stage later stage, be afraid of him? Another man next to the young man called Brother Wu sneered. If Shiyu doesn't meddle into our business, let him be. If he dares to stand up for Jin Ziyu, then don't blame us for being rude. Encore sneered, this time, no matter what, I will let that Jin Ziyu die in agony to repay the hatred for humiliating me. Let's go. After speaking, several people took out their inscribed jade slips and entered the teleportation array. I prepare so many delicious foods in the space, but I didn't even take a few bites. I only sent Nangong you a few portions, then these four little ones had finished them all. Little Egg shrank his neck in a guilty conscience, then he crawled onto her neck to please. He smiled and said, don't be angry, Mom. Aren't we here to stockpile food? Right. Little Golden Dragon also flew to Hushy's ear, smiling flatteringly and saying expectantly, Boss, you don't have to do anything on this journey. We promise to help you get rid of the magical beasts, but we still need Boss to process them after getting the spiritual beast meat. Hee. Boss, we haven't eaten your food for a few days. We're almost dying of hunger, so have pity on us. Chapter 1229. So unlucky Hushy put her arms around her chest and smiled slightly. Okay, that's what you guys said. Before entering the snow Ganoderma grass area, I won't do anything. You all have to do it all for me. Got it. No problem. Don't worry, young master. Just these spiritual beasts, we can definitely get it done. Moo, get it done. Zhang Chong and the others were stunned when they saw this conversation between the 5 spiritual pets. The least scheming Qian Dazhuang couldn't help but be stunned. My God. Don't see that they are all so small. They have quite a big tone. They actually said that they can get the magical beast below rank 6 done? They won't get eaten by the magical beasts, right? Chun Xiaofeng grabbed Qian Dazhuang and motioned him to stop talking nonsense and offended Shiyu. However, Qian Dazhuang suddenly rolled his eyes, leaned closer to Chun Xiaofeng and said with a low smile, if Shiyu's spiritual beasts are in danger and we rescue them, will Shiyu treat our boss for the saving grace? Chun Xiaofeng rolled his eyes at him, but Qian Dazhuang felt that the idea was good. Therefore, they both followed behind the 4 little ones. After walking a few miles into the center of the Sun-Moon Mountain Range, Jin Ziyu suddenly said solemnly, be careful. There is a magical beast approaching, and the level is not low. As soon as Jin Ziyu said these words, their expressions changed greatly, and they were all ready. The only one who was at ease, without being worried or nervous at all, was Hushy, who condensed various shapes with water balls and flames while walking in order to practice her spiritual power control precision. After a while, a magical beast's roar came with a strong coercion. The ground began to shake slightly, accompanied by the violent shaking of trees. At the end of the mountain wall, not far away, an ugly magical beast with black wings soon appeared. This magical beast had a pointed face, green eyes, no hair all over his body, slender limbs and bat-like wings. Chun Xiaofeng breathed a sigh of relief. Fortunately, it's just a rank 3 bat-winged beast. As soon as he finished speaking, he was shocked immediately. The bat-winged beast slowly came forward, and its wings began to vibrate slightly. The dust was flying behind it. When the dust settled, the 2nd, 3rd, 4th, bat-winged beasts all appeared. Chun Xiaofeng's face turned pale. He muttered, 10? No, there are 12 rank 3 bat-winged beasts in total. What should we do? The attack power of bat-winged beasts was not particularly strong, and its defense was average, but the problem was that it could fly and attack from a distance. Surrounded by 12 bat-winged beasts, although they wouldn't all be dead, with the strength of the team, there would definitely be casualties. Zhang Cheng's face turned gloomy. Chapter 1230. Murderous magical beasts. The little fox's weak voice also had regrets. The taste of rank 3 magical beast meat is not as good as that of rank 4 magical beast meat, and it can't show the cooking skill of young master. Little Egg had a crying face. Whoa! Little Egg hates such an ugly magical beast. It doesn't look delicious at all. Will Little Egg have nightmares after eating it? Little Golden Dragon said impatiently, really noisy. Do you want this meat or not? Want. Little Fox, Little Egg, and Little Dumb Cow said in unison. The little fox continued to add weakly, even if it's a mosquito, it will also have meat when there are many. What if there are no good ingredients in this Sun Moon Mountain range? We better save them first. As soon as Shaoli said this, the 4 little ones reached an agreement. Immediately afterward, without even stopping for a moment, the 4 figures all rushed toward the bat-winged beasts. Everyone present, is there something wrong with this script? Qin Dazhuang suddenly woke up. He immediately shouted and rushed out anxiously. Hey, you 4 little guys, don't run around. Those are rank 3 bat-winged beasts. You will be eaten. Come behind me and I'll protect. Before the last word, "you" was uttered, Qin Dazhuang stood there in a daze. No, it wasn't just Qin Dazhuang. Everyone present, except Shi Yu, widened their eyes in disbelief. Qin Dazhuang even rubbed his eyes again and again. It took a long time before he uttered a curse. What the fuck? Are they still spiritual pets? They are clearly murderous beasts. That's right, it was a slaughter without resistance. However, what was slaughtered was not the weak spiritual pets that everyone thought just now, but the 12 black, bat-winged beasts. There was a bloody and pungent smell in the air. The corpses of the huge black, bat-winged beasts fell from the sky one by one, making bang 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 sound. Soon, the ground was covered with their corpses. The only 3 bat-winged beasts left in the air wanted to escape, but the little golden dragon sneered, 3 idiots. You stepped into my bowl and still want to escape? Don't even dream about it. As soon as he said that, a sword aura transformed by lightning whistled and pierced the neck of one of the bat-winged beasts. Bang! The bat-winged beast's body fell to the ground, and a heavier smell of blood permeated. Little Egg below wrinkled his nose and said angrily, Little Dragon, why are you attacking their necks every time? It's such a waste that the blood has flowed out. Their blood can still be made into assorted soup. Little Golden Dragon was stunned in the air. Then he retorted, their blood is too stinky. If you want to make assorted soup, of course find a better magical beast. While speaking, the last 2 bat-winged beasts also died and fell. With a wave of Little Egg's little paw, all 12 bat-winged beasts were sent into the void. Mom, Mom. Little Egg ran back to Hushi with his short legs and asked excitedly, Mom, can these bat-winged beasts make something delicious? Hushi put away the water ball that she had just cast and smiled leisurely. Of course, the taste may be a bit like salt and pepper snake steak. You will know when I cook for you later. Salt and pepper snake steak. Little Egg sucked in his saliva. Suddenly, he became depressed. Why are there only 12 bat-winged beasts? If there were more, wouldn't there be more points of salt and pepper snake steak? That's delicious. Chapter 1231. Blissful Life at the End of the Battle. Jin Ziyu and the others who were completely shocked by the 4 little ones finally came back to their senses. Zhang Yi pointed at the little golden dragon, the main force of the battle, and stammered, Brother Shiyu, they? What kind of magical beast are they? How can they be so powerful? They look so harmless on the surface, but they are such powerful magical beasts. Are they rank 4? Hushi smiled and said lightly, You can ask them. It was not that Hushi didn't want to say it, but she also couldn't tell the origins of these spiritual pets. They are so surprised by this strength only? Hee. Then they will be even more shocked. What's more, Purple Abyss Vine, the truly strongest one, hasn't been revealed yet. The Purple Abyss Vine, which was kept in the void, sensed Hushi's mood, and her branches and leaves swayed proudly and happily. Master said that I'm the most powerful one. Yes, I'm Master's greatest helper. Hee. Along the way, Qian Dazhuang and others experienced an arduous journey from shock and surprise to numbness and accustomed to it. When they finally entered the rank 5 magical beast area and watched those rank 5 magical beasts that the gold core stage could barely deal with, being stomped by the 4 little ones, they felt that the result was normal. Jian Ziyu, Zhang Chong, and others who were worried and nervous also became relaxed after following the 4 little ones for a while. Zhang Chong sighed, I used to follow the elite group of Academy Student Council officers to do missions, but I have never encountered such an easy mission. I feel that I'm here to just make up the number. There's no difference between of having me here at all. Ha ha ha, Qian Dazhuang said with a smile. Aren't we the same? But it's great to not be in danger. Little Egg and the little ones were also very happy, because their empty void was finally filled with ingredients again. As long as the mission was over, they could eat the food cooked by Hushi. The life could only be described as blissful. After traveling for a day and a half, they finally arrived at the edge between the rank 5 magical beast and the rank 6 magic beast. Between the rank 5 magical beast and the rank 6 magical beast area, there was a safe area without magical beasts. There were also many rare spiritual herbs growing in it. Although most of them were rank 3 or 4, for the poor students of the Huang Medical Branch, it was a huge wealth. And in this safe area, there were usually magical beast eggs or cubs, which could grow into a powerful spiritual pet. However, to enter this safe area, one needed to pass through the dense army of rank 5 magical beasts. Most people couldn't even reach here. But because of the little golden dragon beside Hushi, most of the rank 5 magical beasts retreated under the dragon demeanor, so they smoothly entered the safe area. Brother Shiyu, we finally came to this blessed place in the Sun Moon Mountain Range. I want to go in and see if I can find suitable spiritual pets for my brother and I. Senior Shiyu, we also want to collect some spiritual herbs. The spiritual herbs here are very rare. Hushi smiled lightly. Okay, go ahead. Gather here before noon. Zhang Yi and others were overjoyed when they heard the words, and Jin Ziyu and the others also decided to split up to find some suitable spiritual herbs. Chapter 1233. Kill them all. Qian Dazhuang and the others suddenly returned to their senses, hurried to Jin Ziyu, and guarded him firmly behind them. Chen Xiaofeng said more solemnly, Wu Jintian, how did you know we are in the Sun Moon Mountain Range? Did Tu Younghao tell you? Wu Jintian sneered. How I know is not important. The important matter is that you are going to die here today. Chen Xiaofeng glanced at the 7 people. The more he looked, the desperate he became. With their cultivation, they wouldn't be the opponents of these 7 people. Wu Jintian alone could deal with them. However, were they going to die here after struggling to survive for so many years? Chen Xiaofeng gritted his teeth and looked at Wu Jintian with a little pleading in his eyes. Wu Jinshui, the grievance between you and us has passed for so many years. Boss Jin's cultivation has mostly been abolished, and he was kicked out of Heaven Medical Branch. Such a pain and torture still can relieve your hatred? Why do you still want to kill all of us? Ha 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 ha. Chen Xiaofeng's obvious begging for mercy made Wu Jintian and the others burst into laughter. Their faces were full of contempt and cruelty. Chen Xiaofeng, are you scared? Want to beg for mercy? Okay, as long as you kill Jin Ziyu, I will let you go. How about that? Chen Xiaofeng's face turned dark, and he suddenly raised his voice. Wu Jinshui, don't get carried away. If the Academy finds out that you have murdered your classmates, do you think you will end well? Wu Jinshui sneered, and the people behind him also looked unscrupulous. One of the young men with makeup laughed slyly. Hee, no one in the school knew that we came to this Sun Moon Mountain Range and found you. Even if you really die here, the people in the Academy will only think that you challenged the heaven-level mission beyond your own strength and failed in the end. I think Jin Ziyu must know better than everyone else? How tragic the failure of the heaven-level mission was. Ha ha ha. Seeing that Chen Xiaofeng was going to talk, Qian Dazhuang couldn't help but shout, Ah Feng, why still talk nonsense with them? These bastards are determined to kill boss. Do you think they will really let us go? Qian Dazhuang, you're right. Wu Jinshui sneered. His cold eyes turned to Jin Ziyu, and he slowly said, Jian Ziyu, you kicked me out of the finals list in the big competition back then, humiliated in front of people. I even lost my chance to go to Siam continent forever. I swear by my name Wu Jinshui that day, I will repay this hatred tenfold and 100-fold on you. Today, I finally get the chance. Qian Dazhuang flushed and shouted angrily, It's clear that you used despicable methods in the competition, and you even ruthlessly abolished your opponent cultivation. Boss was already good to just kick you out of the competition. You didn't feel grateful, but now you even, Dazhuang. No need to talk more with him. Jin Ziyu said slowly, he won't listen. Yes, there were people like them in this world. They could only see what others owe them, but they couldn't see the evil deeds they had done. They would only hate the injustice that others had treated them, but they would never reflect on themselves. To such a person, it would be a waste of time to say more. Chapter 1234, Life and Death Together. As soon as he finished speaking, Jin Ziyu channeled spiritual power and released a cluster of green mist. Instantly, everything around became sticky and heavy. Even the dust floating in the air was absorbed by the mist. Everyone's vision became blurred. Jin Ziyu coughed in a low voice, suppressed the surging blood in his heart, pushed his 3 companions, and said in a hoarse voice from the mist, Go to Zhangcheng and Shiyu immediately. Boss, what are you doing? The anxious call came from not far away, but Jin Ziyu seemed to have not heard it. He formed gestures, making the mist even thicker as if it would suffocate people's breathing. This move, Green Mist Forest, was a very powerful killing move, and it could only be used if one had the dual sky spiritual root of water and wood or the mutated sky spiritual root of these 2 types. In Miluo continent, the sky spiritual root of the wood type almost couldn't be found, and the mutated sky spiritual root of the wood type was even more rare. Jian Ziyu was one of them. However, no matter how powerful the ultimate move was, if it was used with the cultivation of the meridian stage, it wouldn't be able to exert 0.1% of its true power. Wu Jinshui's disdainful and arrogant sneer came from the mist. Jian Ziyu, do you think you are still the best president of the Academy Student Council? Now your trick, Green Mist Forest, is just worse than the annoying juggling in my eyes. As soon as the voice came, a crimson flame suddenly ignited, and the surrounding temperature rose rapidly. Soon, the sticky and moist green mist evaporated. Wu Jinshui saw Jin Ziyu hiding behind a tree at a glance. He had a pale face and bloodstains on his mouth. He couldn't help laughing. His body and the long sword in his hand merged into one and whistled toward Jin Ziyu. He wanted to break Jin Ziyu's tendons first, then he would crush his meridians and bones inch by inch, smash his dantian and feed his body to the magical beast. Bang! A loud noise came. Wu Jinshui was forced to take 2 steps back and stopped attacking. Jin Ziyu's face changed greatly, and he exclaimed, Dazhuang. What are you doing? Qian Dazhuang's huge body like a mountain stood firmly in front of Jin Ziyu. His face looked suffering, then he spouted blood, accompanied by the sound of bones breaking. The tower-like, burly man almost fell down in front of Jin Ziyu, as if his body was boneless. However, all of a sudden, some kind of strength was supporting him. The body that had fallen down suddenly stood up straight, and he once again stood in front of Jin Ziyu. Jin Ziyu's lips trembled violently. After a while, he said angrily in a hoarse voice, Qian Dazhuang, what are you doing? Don't even you treat me as your boss now? You don't even listen to me? Their target is me, not you. Leave now. Do you hear me? No, I don't listen. Qian Dazhuang used a greatsword to support his unstable body, and he said with a weak but decisive tone, Boss, you saved my life. I said that I, Dazhuang, will be with you no matter where you are. Even if it's your order, boss, you can't make me break the oath I made. That's right, boss. Chun Xiaofeng and Hong Anxiu were not as burly as Qin Dazhuang, but they felt a deep regret for not helping when Jin Ziyu was in danger. At this time, they finally returned to Jin Ziyu's side. They stood in 3 directions to protect Jin Ziyu tightly. You're tuning in to the Romance Rendezvous YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.